So guys, my name is Fernando Machado. He already said I'm the global CMO for BK. This is usually what I wear, which is our crew member shirt. I'm very proud to wear that. But I dress specially just for tonight for you. I've been with BK for about 6 years now, almost 6 years. I started around November of 2013. Before BK, I did my whole career at Unilever. So I was born in Brazil. That's why I have this funny accent. I hope you guys can understand what I'm trying to say. I grew up in Unilever, worked in Brazil, worked in Mexico, worked in New York, moved back to Brazil, moved to London, spent like amazing 4 years in London as the global VP for Dove. It was an amazing time, like like one of those magic times that everything can go wrong, but it goes right. Usually, like you have a great team. Sometimes you have budget. You have like amazing people working with you, but not always things go well. But those 4 years, everything went well. We were growing like double-digit growth. We had like growth. We had like record high share in 65% of the geographies. We were growing share in 100% of the geographies. We did Real Beauty sketches, which became pretty famous back then. This is 2013. Back then, it was the most watched video from a brand on YouTube, the biggest viral in history. We left Cannes with 24 lions, including the Titanium Grand Prix, and I thought like from there it's only going to go downhill because like there's no way you can beat 24 lions like in 1 year in Cannes. And oddly enough, it was the first time in my career that I was not itching to do the next thing, because like when I was like a brand manager, I wanted to be a director. When I was a director, I wanted to be a director from a bigger brand. And then I became a VP. I wanted to be a global VP. And then I was 4 years on Dove. Everything was working fine. I was super happy. The brand is awesome. People were great. And I was not itching to do the next thing. The guys would come to me like, why don't you do this? And we're like, I prefer where I am. And then I thought, maybe it's time for me to change. It's also a bit odd when your friends start to nickname you Unilever. So I thought like, maybe it's a bit overdue, like after 18 years. So I grabbed the phone and I called 2 companies. I thought that, look, I mean, if I'm going to leave, I need to leave to something that's dramatically different than Unilever and then Dove, because else what's the point? I just stay here. So I called a tech company and I called Burger King. And I called Burger King because like I grew up in Brazil. Like there were not many Burger Kings around, but I grew up like looking up at the amazing stuff that Burger King used to do. Like when I was like starting my career in marketing. I remember like the golden era of Crispin Porter Bogowski when they did like Whopper Freakout, Sub-7 Chicken, Whopper Virgins, Whopper Sacrifice. I could spend the whole time I have just talking about the cool stuff that those guys used to do. It was clearly ahead of its time. I mean, I remember like working on my desktop at Unilever and receiving the link to the website. There was no social media to check the Sub-7 Chicken. I spent like hours asking the chicken to do shit like on the website, like completely like waste of time of me. I couldn't even go to Burger King because there was none. But like amazing, amazing. It really inspired me. I'm the type of guy that, and I had some really good friends that did the same thing, that were like-minded. We would like leave the work and go to someone's house, buy beers, and watch ads. We were like waiting to get the beta or the VHS tape. VHS tape, I mean, it really shows your age when you say something like that, but like the VHS tape to watch the reel from the One Show, or from Cannes, or from the Clio, and we'd spend like hours looking at the mini campaigns, and which was also Crispin Porter, and Burger King, and WhatsApp, and all that cool stuff. That's kind of like I grew up admiring those guys, and my dream was like, well, I hope that one day I can do cool shit like that. I would be very happy if that happened. And this is me on my first week at Burger King. The image is clearly accelerated because I'm usually suck when I'm like, when I'm doing that type of stuff. Like the crew members get really like upset. Look at her, she's desperate. What the fuck this guy's doing? Can you please leave my restaurant? And that was the horrible uniform you used to have. It looks like you're a mechanic, like working in the kitchen. So I moved to Miami. I called them. They never called me. I called them and I said, look, I mean, you guys used to do great stuff. And I think that I was always very curious about working for 3G, like as a Brazilian, kind of like saw that thing happening in Brazil. I was curious to to design a space. I always had this dream of like designing the space, which is the restaurant. Like in consumer goods, I was designing point of sales material, which doesn't sound like that glamorous as designing the restaurant. I thought it would be an awesome challenge for influencing an organization that was not really like a marketing organization back then, and franchisees and all that cool stuff. So I moved to Miami, and this was like end of 13, beginning of 14. I started working illegally, as most people in Miami do, and then I got my visa and was able to like start working legally. But like the funny thing is like when I arrived in Burger King in Miami, Burger King was a very different brand than the brand I grew up looking up to, you know. They had fired like 4 agencies in like 2 years, which is like this, like obviously like something's not right. I remember asking like, show me like, can I see the brand positioning deck or presentation? And people were like, which one you want? Which is like, what? Like you have more than one? Like, or like we had like 17 different logos, you know, like clear like symptoms, I'm not joking, clear like symptoms that there is something wrong. And this is like what Burger King had on TV, because by the way, TV was the only thing they would do. TV was like the crack rock for Burger King. We're like putting all the money on TV, and we're doing stuff like this.
Exciting things are happening at Burger King.
Welcome to Burger King, with your crispy chicken strips. So I said, well, you know, the cool power of the way you try to sauce it. Who's that talking?
Steven? Need a hairnet, Tyler?
You need to get some hair, John.
The new crispy chicken strips. Come and get it at Burger King.
So it's hard to put this video on my presentation. I always do that because like it really makes me like, it gives me nausea a little bit because like it's everything I hate about advertising in 30 seconds. And I'm sure that when the guys came in and presented this to the board, it's like, yes, we are going to have a campaign that's going to have Steven Tyler and Jay Leno and Mary J. Blige and Sofia Vergara because we need Hispanic. And to have like David Beckham, which is all true, but they're not making those names. They are the campaign, the real campaign. People on the board were probably like, yeah, that's great, because they know those names. And I've been to 1 trillion focus groups in the US. No one has ever mentioned this campaign. It did nothing for the brand. It didn't shift brand attributes, increase sales, nothing. It's like the most generic thing ever. By the way, I bet that when dessert is served, you already forgot what was the product that was advertised, because even the product is generic. And it was not just advertising. This was packaging design, right? I mean, I presented this chart 1 trillion times too, and I have to read because I never remember what's written on the thing. So fresh preparation is why taste is king. Well, like, yeah, right. I believe that your package that looks like a hospital food, like the semiotics is like bleached white pack. It's like I will open, there'll be a chicken soup inside. But because you wrote capitalized red, fresh preparation, I would believe is fresh. I would rather design with the other way around, right? I mean, like I didn't have to read. You know, I look at my shampoo every day. I don't remember what's written on the shampoo. I know it's Head and Shoulders and it's blue, but don't ask me more than that. No one gives a shit about any of that. So the design should work the other way around. This is merchandising. Merchandising are the posters that we put on the windows of the restaurant. And that's really important because in many markets, we don't have money to go on TV. So your restaurant is your advertising, and the posters are your out-of-home plan, let's say. And like this could be for any brand, right? I mean, if I put a McDonald's logo here, it would work. Who wants to eat a sandwich sitting on a pillow, or like a chicken sandwich with white, like pink background that makes the sandwich look sweet and cold? And it's just like very, very generic. And I could keep going, but because I don't have much time, I will just move on. This is a corner in LA, like a super competitive market. And I bet with you that I never seen a marketeer that says, no, my market's not competitive. Like it's piece of cake, it's super easy. All markets are fucked up. You know, it's always difficult. Like it's never easy. I should have said in the beginning, I curse a lot, I'm sorry. Like, I hope that the wine already kicked in and you guys are cool with that because there will be more cursing coming. And this is like, I'm not plotting mom and pop, right? I'm not plotting the taco truck, the hot dog stand. In LA, I mean, there is a lot of that. I'm not plotting Starbucks. If I plot Starbucks, this thing would be green and you wouldn't be able to see. Like in LA, there is a Starbucks inside of the bathroom of the Starbucks. You know what I mean? They're like everywhere. So it's a very competitive market, and I'm not the top spender in the market, right? And this is back in 2013. Now we are a little bit better, but still like number 4, number 5. Back then we are number 6. And there are 2 types of marketeers when they see this graph. Like there is one that says, oh, I need more money. I was that marketeer at some point in my career, but I realized after more than 10 years working in marketing that I never got the more money that I was asking for. And if you work for 3G Capital, if you say the word money, they cut your money. So you shouldn't even like try to do that. Or you can say, whatever I do, it needs to stand out. You know, like standing out is going to be my dollar multiplier. It not only stand out, it needs to stand out and be quintessentially Burger King. You know, like it needs to, people need to see like, oh my God, look at that, and talk to their friends and post in social media and be like, only Burger King could have done that. That's how success looks like for us. And that's kind of like the principle of the work that we do. And this is just like a funny joke, like in the first floor of our building in Miami, we changed offices like end of last year, but on the first office when I came to work, on the first floor there was like a Burger King museum. And with the agency we used, and there was a statue of the king on the museum. And with the agency we would just say that if you got really, really close to the statue, you could hear the king whispering, what the fuck are you guys doing? Because the brand is amazing. This brand is amazing. This brand did like chicken fries, the Whopper, Subservient chicken, so much good stuff. You cannot be doing fucking Steven Tyler announcing chicken tenders, which you probably don't even remember what it was. It's chicken tenders on TV. And it's not all about awards. And by the way, my bonus is not paid on awards. My bonus is paid on sales and profitability. But this is a brand that has won Cannes Lions since 1969. And if you are in this industry, you know that it was much harder to win in the past than it is today, because today there are too many categories. In the past, it was just film. So it's a tradition of winning awards. And then on the last 4 years, which is the period I'm talking about, we won 2 Bronze Lions, which is very little. And by the way, with campaigns that we didn't even know existed, because the agency probably created and sent behind our back. If we had to approve, we would probably have killed it. And 2 zeros, which is very, very little, you know, like for the brand. And I care about that stuff. I know that some marketeers say they don't, but I care because I believe creativity helps me grow the business and the brand. And if I don't get recognition, probably there is something wrong with what I'm doing. So what I'm going to share with you guys were what were the 5 things that we've done that changed a little bit the trajectory of this brand. And they're all obvious stuff. You know, every time if a marketeer comes and complicates too much, it's probably not going to work in the real world. So it's like very simple. Nothing is rocket science, and it probably only works if you do the 5 at the same time. So the first one, which is really, really obvious, is the first thing we did was to understand the brand. You know, because despite the fact that we are doing really shitty work, people still love the brand. Like I remember, like when I came to do my interview, the guy who I called to come to Burger King, he said, "Hey, you're going back to London. Wear this Burger King shirt and see how people react." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, give me." And it's hilarious. Like, and I wear a lot of Burger King stuff all the time, to be honest. And people change their attitude. Like, they treat you like if they knew you. It's ridiculous, even on customs. You know, like, I used to arrive in the US, in Miami, and say, like, I would arrive, give my passport, take the fucking, like, 2-hour line, give the passport, and the guy's like, "So what are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Well, I work here." And he's like, "Where do you work?" And I say, "I work for Burger King." And the guy's like, "Oh, Burger King. Like, do you have Whoppers on your luggage?" And I have to laugh because I'm trying to get in. I'm like, it's so funny. And then it was always like that. And with Dove was the same. I used to arrive in New York, coming from London, and the guys would ask, "What are you doing here?" Like, "I came to do some meetings." "Where do you work?" I would say Unilever, and the guy would look weird at me and like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's like Procter, but there's other stuff." and then it was like, okay, whatever. Or I would say like Dove, and the guy would be like, oh, Dove, like real beauty, real women. I'm not joking. Like, like the soap, like my wife loves the soap. Here, take your passport, go. I love you. And like, it's insane. Like there are some brands that hit that nerve. You know, they connect at eye level with people. Like I was walking in Wynwood, I'll never forget this, like 2 years ago, I was wearing a Burger King jacket, and 2 teenagers came to me like, where did you get that? Do you work for Burger King? I'm like, yeah, I work for Burger King, but I work in the office. Man, that jacket's so awesome. I took it off and gave like to the guy, here, take it. And the guy was like so fucking happy. You know, like I gave him like a fancy jacket. It's like a crew member jacket that I was wearing. That probably cost like $12 for us. So the brand really strikes that chord. So why? Why is that? You know, and we started by going and talking to people. You know, you stop someone in the US, which is our main market, and ask like, hey, I will tell you a brand, tell me the first thing that comes to mind. You say Burger King, they say Whopper. And then you say like, what about the Whopper? And they're like, oh, I love the Whopper. It's like this big sandwich, like 2 hands to hold it. It is a total fucking mess when I try to eat. It's because it drips ketchup and it's juicy, so it drips like the grease of the beef. And it's flame grilled because they flame broil the sandwich. And it tastes like barbecue, but it's very messy. It feels like it was handmade, not coming out of an assembly line like the other guys do, and la la la. They don't stop. You know, like it's a whole spiel around this idea of a sandwich that's perfectly imperfect, and that's flame grill, and that's messy, and that's fresh. This is our fans, what they say. And then the other thing that we did was to look at the fan itself. And the funny thing is like, this category has low levels of loyalty. So the same people that go to McDonald's, go to Burger King, go to Pizza Hut, go to Domino's, go to Subway, go to Taco Bell. So it's the same people. But when they are at Burger King, they behave a little bit different. And honestly, fast food is a fun occasion. So you're going to see always people having fun on fast food. But when you look at our people, when they are in the Burger King restaurant, they are a little bit more out there than the average fast food fan. Do the test. Go on Instagram, search Burger King, then search the other brands. You're going to see, like, in Burger King, lots of people wearing the crown, being outrageous, like being really out there. And it's the same people. But something happens with them, which is kind of like the tonality of the brand, that changed the way they behave. And we ask ourselves why. And in short, also I'm going to show all my brand book here, which will take much more time. But in short, it's basically because, one, we told people to have it their way for a long time, and that means respect for the individuality. 2, it's because of the values and personality of the brand, which are a little bit out there, fun, self-deprecating. And 3 is because of the crown. You know, like the crown transforms people. It brings out the 12-year-old version of yourself. You know, like this is us interviewing a guy on the street in Miami, and someone goes and puts a crown on his head. You see the change. You know, the guy changed. And I present this internally for the 3G people, like the finance guys. So I have a diagram here to explain. And you can totally see how it completely changed the way the person behaves. And that's very powerful because that crown is a piece of paper. You know, it's the brand triggers that. And that's why the guy on customs behaved that way when I'm trying to go through customs. So the first thing we did was that. We basically like created this positioning around doing things differently, being self-deprecating, being a challenging brand, being fun, and welcoming everyone, and respecting individuality. And then we took it from there. But none of the things that we did were new. You know, it was basically like trying to find what was the essence of the brand on the minds of people to start with. Burger King is in the marketplace since 1954. You know, I've been there for 5 years. That's a drop in the ocean, like on the history of the brand. I think it would be very arrogant and stupid to think that we could lock ourselves in a room and say, hey, from now on, the positioning of the brand is this. Because the position of the brand was already on people's head. It was more about trying to understand what the hell was that. The second thing we did was to change the way we briefed, you know. And it's funny because, like, in my career, in the beginning of my career, I wrote my fair share of really shitty briefs. I thought that writing a brief that was like 10-page long and explained absolutely every single thing anyone can ever think about asking was a good thing. And I would send that brief to the agency. I would be really proud with myself that I like the competitive analysis alone was like 3 pages. like really proud. And I didn't realize that no one even read that shit, you know what I mean? And I could not even remember what the brief was. And the brief for Real Beauty Sketches was, let's make women feel more beautiful. Was that short? And I love this quote. I didn't have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long one instead. And it's so true, you know what I mean? It's much harder to go with a one-line brief or know exactly what is the one thing you have to say to trigger a behavior change. Most of the time, when my team comes to me with a brief that has 10 things on what they have to communicate, it's not going to work. Now, there is quantitative evidence about that, if you want, from Millward Brown. It's not even Fernando saying. It needs to be one thing. So if you don't know what that one thing is, you need to do your homework and figure out what that one thing is. So our best briefs, they are like this. Burger King Flame Grill since 1954 is our main point of difference. So I have to communicate that fire is better. So, or for instance, when I'm launching delivery, I'm trying to make delivery top of mind. Or when I'm launching mobile order and payment, I need to let people know that I have mobile order and payment. It's like one thing. It's not like, hey, tell them that we flame grill and that our tomatoes are chopped fresh in the restaurant and that the onions are chopped fresh in the restaurant and the mayo is real mayo and the beef is 100% beef, no preservatives, no fillers, no artificial colors, no flavors, which is all true. But that is the thing that triggers the most purchase consideration. So focus on that instead of diluting the whole thing. Yeah. So this is the first campaign I will show. So this is one of the most recent campaigns we did. We did this end of last year, beginning of this year. We were doing something very difficult, which was we were launching mobile order and payment, and we were not the first company to do that. No way. The guy who sells coffee next to my building has mobile order and payment. I was in Brazil to watch Flamengo play São Paulo, and the tickets were sold out, and I bought on the black market, and the guy accepted mobile order and payment on the black market, selling tickets in front of the stadium. But Burger King didn't have mobile order and payment. Why? Because they had 370-something versions of the POS system. So it took us fucking 2 years to code that shit to work with mobile order and payment. So when we did it, it's big deal for us. It's amazing. But for people out there, they don't give a shit because everyone has mobile order and payment. So how the hell do you make people care? And that's why I think, and I don't have that as one of my key points, but it's a key point on everything we do, creativity can take you there. And creativity was the thing that made people care about Burger King have mobile order and payment, because that's what we did.
Burger King wants you to come here. Yes, to McDonald's.
Burger King is trolling its fast food rival.
With a promotion available through the Burger King mobile app.
Yeah, but this is small cash. So that's fine. Burger King commercial when you get that longer or only if you open the app while you're having a job.
And the thing that you said, you have to go to McDonald's for a Whopper?
Use Burger King Pizza app, then be within 600 feet of a McDonald's restaurant.
Burger King geofence over 14,000.
14,000 McDonald's restaurants in the U.S.
Unbelievable. So I parked my used car about 100 feet from the McDonald's.
I feel weird. I'm at McDonald's getting a coupon for Burger King. I almost feel like I'm seeing
Lots of property stores.
This is a little guy's shop. What is this?
Crazy.
So that was one of the most successful campaigns we have ever done. And like, the agency could have taken as like, oh, that's a really shitty brief to make people care about something that no one will care. But that's where creativity can change the equation. You know, if I gave you two options, option A, download the app, you get a free Whopper. Option B, download the app, put your credit card, drive to McDonald's, order from there, drive back to Burger King, get your Whopper for 1 cent. Which one do you think people will do? We did option A. No one cares. You don't even know about it, but we did it. McDonald's also did it. Chick-fil-A also did it. Wendy's also did it. You guys don't know about that. People know about option B. Why? Because I know my target. I know that they believe that we are a fun brand, that we are doing self-deprecating stuff, they're doing stuff that's a little bit out there. So they are expecting us to do that type of stuff for them to engage. Point number 3, let the idea grow. And this is also really important, I think, especially if you are in marketing. Most of the ideas, probably all of the ideas that we did that I think were like really strong for the brand, when they were first presented to us, we didn't really know if they would work. You know, can you imagine Whopper the tour? The guy said, yeah, we want to do this, and we want to geofence 14,000. We want to geofence all restaurants from McDonald's in the US. I'm like, guys, it's 14,000. How the fuck are you going to geofence 14,000? We don't even have the geofence for my restaurants. Imagine for the 14 that they have double. And like Real Beauty Sketches, same thing. They presented, and I said, but like how, like, do like FBI trained sketch artists even exist? Because I think it's probably all done by the computer. And the guy's like, we don't know. Like, but like, if they do the 2 drawings, how do you know it's going to be different? Like, I don't know. I'm like, but if they are different, how do you know women will have a reaction to the drawings? And they said, I don't know. So we said, okay, let's do it then. Because the more I don't know we hear, the more we like the idea. Because if I knew how to do it, it has been done before. I've done so many campaigns in my life that if I know how to do it, it's because it's similar to something that I've done. If I don't know how to do it, then we are interesting territory. And because most of these ideas, they don't have a high media budget, it's more, the production is actually sometimes bigger than the media, it's fine. If it doesn't work, I will trash it. I think the last 5 years at Burger King, I trashed like $1.5 million in campaigns that I produce that I don't use. I produce like $30, $40 million of campaigns. So that's a pretty good rate like of trashing stuff, especially because most of the stuff that I'm showing you, the media budget was tiny. I need more media budget when they think it's not going to fly, and then I have to pour money on the thing for people to talk about and care. So that's why letting the idea grow, it's so important. One of the creative guys that I used to work a long time ago, he was from BBH New York, he used to say that when a lion is born, it's a baby lion. It's very easy to kill, and it's so true. All the lions that I had a chance to win in my career, they were very easy to kill in the beginning. It was just someone saying like, no, we don't know how to do it, let's show me the next idea. You know, and you kill it. My next chart is not a dead lion, don't worry. That will be very graphic. This idea came from, like, we were having a meeting in Mexico, and then with the agency guys, and then we need to grow delivery. Delivery is growing a lot in fast food. So we are launching basically like everywhere, and it's all enabled by the aggregators like Uber Eats and DoorDash and Postmates and all that stuff. And the guy said, well, I mean, the tricky part of delivery here is like the traffic sucks in Mexico. Some people spend up to 5 hours in traffic. Like, so, and then one guy said, well, what if we could deliver to the traffic jam? And then we're like, well, how the fuck would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, the gridlock changes, like people can escape the route, it's not going to work. And they were like, but what if we did this? What if we did that? So it's very easy to kill right there. You know, how the hell you do that? We cannot even deliver to a building right now, and you want to deliver to a moving target. So this is what we did.
real-time data. We adjusted our digital billboards placement and content. The messages display information about the remaining time traffic to order and personalized updates about deliveries and progress. Awesome. Waste management and push notifications invite drivers to use the service as soon as they enter our delivery zones. People were able to use voice commands to place the order and avoid tickets. Fine. Using the latest Google Maps APIs, our app pinpointed vehicle location and speed in order to deliver the first time ever to a driver on the move. The delivery zones changed following the traffic block, making our service available where gridlock was identified. Always within a 3-kilometer radius from restaurants. In just 1 month, we increased delivery orders by 63%, and our daily app download rate increased 44 times, becoming the #1 fast food app, surpassing McDonald's, Domino's, and Starbucks in Mexico. Coming soon, Los Angeles, San Paulo, and Shanghai. The traffic jam walk.
Enjoy the traffic jam.
Pretty cool, right? Like, again, technology, creativity, solving a business problem with the tone of voice of the brand. Next one, the biggest risk is not taking any risk, which is a phrase from Mark Zuckerberg. Like, I always say that because sometimes people quote me on Twitter, or Fernando said that, and like, it was not me, it was Mark Zuckerberg. This is so true, you know, like, and this ties back to the 2 most common questions I'm asked, usually. The first one is, aren't you guys afraid sometimes? You do all this cool stuff, like really out there, and don't you fear, like when you do the stuff, like you're never afraid, you guys are like fearless. And every time someone says or asks that, I always like, I think like these guys don't know us, you know, because it's not like we are afraid sometimes. We are afraid every fucking time. Like, we're afraid every time. If I'm not afraid, I'm not doing the idea. You know, that's the thing. The thing is not to not be afraid or to be fearless. The thing is to do the idea even when you are afraid. If I'm not afraid, I've done it before. I know the outcome. I know what the risks are. It's probably not going to work for me. Like, we are number 6. Remember the graph? Like, on investment? Like, if you want to stand out, you need to do stuff that's different. And different automatically comes with uncertainty. And uncertainty usually triggers fear. So you need to get used to do things even when you're anxious or like every time we're launching a campaign, and it never happens to go wrong. I will tell you what happens when it goes wrong. But every time we launch a campaign, I'm like anxious, like hell. The whole team, we cannot even sleep like well. I'm not joking, I'm serious. And then the second question is like, I just preempted myself, what happens when it goes wrong? And I will show you a graph to explain what happens when it goes wrong. So this is the number of shares, like people sharing online over time, yeah? Which is very similar to press coverage over time, yeah? Like it's more or less the same. So day 1, only people who are very close to the topic share. Day 2 is the peak of shareability, and then it falls down, and then like by day 7, day 8, my mom sends me on WhatsApp. That's usually how it happens, because it was shared on the group of the church that she goes. And then she forwards to me the message. Then I know that everyone received that thing. But if you step back from that graph, and this is a real example from 2017, the month of April in 2017, it started with a tweet from the president, so everyone was talking about that. And you probably remember the Kendall Jenner commercial, right? I mean, which was a disaster in the industry. My mom couldn't give a shit about any of that, but like in the industry, everyone was like, oh my God, like look at what Pepsi did. The real people there, they couldn't care less about any of that, but on Advertising Week, Ad Age, all those things, oh my God. And the guys on Pepsi were like, oh my God, fuck me, like we just destroyed the brand. Like we'll never recover from that. Let me update my LinkedIn profile immediately. And then next day, tweet from Mr. President, and then the conversation shifts, you know, and then you probably remember that, like the guy got dragged out of the United Airlines flight, remember that? That was April 17. So like the guys on United were like, fuck me, like we are screwed, you'll never recover from this shit, like let me update my LinkedIn profile. The guys from Pepsi were celebrating because like conversation had moved on. And then it moves. Like it moves all the time. And it was that month that we did Google Home of the Whopper, which was a really cool campaign. We realized that during a Super Bowl ad from Google, it accidentally triggered Google Home in the house of people. There were only 200,000 Google Home and Amazon Alexa back then, so it's not a big number, but we decided to run an ad that would trigger Google Home on purpose, and then Google blocked us, and then we unblocked. This is all in a space of like 48 hours. It was really fun. That campaign has more than 10 billion impressions, and it was something really rare happened, which was we had more than one peak of talkability because we did a peak when it blocked. We did a peak when we launched. Then they blocked 3 hours later. We already had 2 billion impressions, so it was another peak. Then there was another peak when people realized it worked. So there was 2 peaks, and then we were like there at Burger King celebrating. From now on, everyone in this country will only talk about Burger King because we are awesome, and then it moves on. And it's always like that. So when people ask me like, what is the worst that can happen? And this line here may vary depending on the brand you are and whether you have global presence and how much the media picks up on your stuff. But this line for us is 2 billion impressions with B. Yeah? Anything that's less than 2 billion for us, it's like, yeah, it didn't work so well. So you see like when it doesn't work, it's like me in the office and then my CEO comes and say like, so how did the campaign go? I'm like, yeah, man, it didn't go so well. We only got like 700 million impressions. And he's like, oh, fuck, like, how much did you invest? I was like, yeah, invest like 30K. Like, yeah, oh my God, we need to do better next time. That's it. Like, so it's nothing. Nothing happens. You know what I mean? Because we are doing stuff that's on brand, that we all agree that the brand should be doing, and that we are at least trying, not even spending too much money. Yeah? You know what's risky is? Risk is to put $10 million, $12 million in a TV spot that doesn't work. That's risky. You know, to do Google Home of the Whopper, we swiped, like, we changed 8 insertions of our media plan for the film that from Google Home. Like, there was not even like an own cost on the media plan. So risk is relative. Like, risk is doing Steven Tyler or David Beckham. For my brand, maybe for another brand, if there is an idea around David Beckham, maybe it would work. For my brand, and go on YouTube later on and check, the ad is David Beckham coming to a Burger King wearing a suit with a glow of light on his back, ordering a strawberry smoothie. You know when that's going to happen? Fucking never. And people know that. So it doesn't work. So for my brand, that's risky. Anyway, so this is an ad that we did for delivery, which when it was first presented, I was so excited. I was like, guys, this is a really cool ad. It's like this, it's a campaign, it's a promotion. And people are like, oh my God. Like, but people are going to make fun of us. They will say that our food tastes like dog food. And it was a brainstorm of what could go wrong. Yeah? And we did it. And was I 100% sure it would work? No, because we never are. But we did it, and it worked amazing. And then everyone who said it that were concerned, they now love their spot, which tends to happen quite often. So I just played for you. But this was considered to be risky before we shot.
Baby, I love you. Why does more fun than my love? Baby, I free you. Why is good not forever? You're always on my
So we use it globally. And that was like, oh, don't do it. It's not going to work. And then when you show to franchisees on the convention, it was a standing ovation, because that's pretty much a cloud pleaser for franchisees. Anyway, my clock's starting to like highlight. I'm almost done. So the last point is one team. And one team has 2 aspects of it. One team with your agency. Like our agency partners, they are partners. We don't have like a client-agency relationship. That's bullshit. You know, like we work as one team, like we are one WhatsApp more than we should. Really, like my wife you can ask her. And we really work collaborate as one team. If you open the door when you're having a meeting, you don't know who is agency, who is client. We work very, very close together. It doesn't mean that we don't have our fights, but we fight with closed doors. And then after we fight, we are like a one united front to make shit happen. Because you need that. I really trust the guys. Many times, I don't think the idea will work, but I trust the guys so much that I go for it, and they were right. Like most often they are right. I mean, the type of people that we work with. And the other part of one team, which is really important if you are like a global company, large company, is to be one team within your company. You know, like I see many companies that are like Game of Thrones. You know, like the regions don't talk to the global team, and the country doesn't talk to the regional team, and legal stops everything from happening, and this and that. And we are like really like one team. You know, I have a WhatsApp group with more than 100 people for the marketing team, and we are sharing work in progress all the time. We are talking all the time about stuff. We take an idea from one country and we make it global and give the credit to the country. It's really like one team, and I cannot emphasize enough the importance of behaving like that. So just to wrap it up, this was the graph I shown in the beginning, right? This is the past 5 years. So it's ridiculous. We were Client of the Year on the One Show, on Clio. We were Creative Marketer of the Year in Cannes. This year we were like Creative Brand of the Year in Cannes. We were Client of the Year on the A&G. Like I would never expect to have achieved this level, the creative that we did to achieve this level of recognition. This year was completely obscene in Cannes. We left with 3 Grand Prix for Wapa de Tour, including the Titanium Grand Prix and media, sorry, and direct and mobile, and we got 40 Lions in total. This is sales, because like the previous chart, I don't get any fucking bonus out of that. But like, I don't know if you realize, but fast food is not like a startup type of a Silicon Valley type of category. This is before, right? And this is the past 4 years. Burger King posted last quarter, Q2, plus 9.8%. So it's very high single digit or double digit for a brand in fast food. That's pretty damn good. That's way faster than the industry is growing. And it's not just advertising. It's not just digital. It's a bunch of stuff, but marketing might be helping. And this is like the brand value, right, measured by brand Z. And red is Burger King, and you can see the shift pretty much like at the same time we started to do work that was more meaningful to our fans and to our consumers. So just to wrap it up, so that the guys from the organization don't have a heart attack, these are the 5 points. So first one, pretty obvious, understand your brand. You know, what is about, if your brand has history, like why did people like the brand to start with? You know, it's very simple questions, but it's worth asking yourself. Create a great brief. Force yourself to write a one-line brief. It's harder than it may sound. You know, like let the idea grow. Trust uncertainty. You know what I mean? Like when you don't know how to do something, it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Most of the time, it's actually a good thing. Number 4, biggest risk, not taking any risk. Remember that if you're not feeling afraid, you're probably playing safe, and that the worst that can happen is usually nothing really, and nothing tends to be the most common outcome of most marketing campaigns anyway, so you may as well try to do something different. And the last one team, which means one team with your creative partners, with your agencies, and one team internally. This is all I had for you guys. Thank you very much. This is my Twitter account. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you.